of the day, counting it on the way. All of my blessings knocking on the door today. Toys and it's all the same, dreaming reality.
Thank you for dropping in for your dose of crazy happiness and a quick hit of positivity. Welcome to episode 115. I'm your host, Tanya Vetter of TanyaVetter.com. Today's episode is being brought to you by Women Empowerment Training Institute, empowering women and youth through engagement and exposure. Check out all of the great work that they are doing in the community and abroad, and become a part of this great giving and love movement. Check them out and donate at theweedy.org. Well, hello guys. Welcome to Motivating Monday. I am absolutely excited about episode 115. Why? Because we have our former President Barack Obama. Yes, today's clip is actually from September the 7th. Yes, and he's talking to the audience about the power of using our voice to vote. Now, today's clip is actually a little longer than normal because I want you to really listen to the information and the wisdom that he's given us as not just our former president, but as a citizen. He's going to share some valuable inside information that we rarely, if ever, have gotten as someone who served as such a great capacity for the United States of America, guys. We have an upcoming election that is absolutely monumental in the United States of America. And so I felt it was absolutely important that, if nothing else, this message of making sure that you get your voice heard, making sure that your vote is accounted for. I don't know about you on November 6th, but I'm going to do early voting because I know how important this is to me. So guys, this is an episode, I'm going to say that you don't want to miss because President Barack, former president, he will always be my president, but former President Barack Obama is telling us some things that I think he wished he could have told us when he was in the White House. Let's take a listen.
Making democracy work means holding on to our principles, having clarity about our principles, and then having the confidence to get in the arena and have a serious debate. And it also means appreciating that progress does not happen all at once, but when you put your shoulder to the wheel, if you're willing to fight for it, things do get better. And let me tell you something, particularly young people here. Better is good. I used to have to tell my young staff this all the time in the White House. Better is good. That's the history of progress in this country. Not perfect, better. The Civil Rights Act didn't end racism, but it made things better. Social Security didn't eliminate all poverty for seniors, but it made things better for millions of people. Do not let people tell you the fight's not worth it because you won't get everything that you want. The idea that, there's racism in America, so I'm not going to bother voting. No point. That makes no sense. You can make it better. Better's always worth fighting for. That's how our founders expected this system of self-government to work. That through the testing of ideas and the application of reason and evidence and proof, we could sort through our differences, and nobody would get exactly what they wanted, but it would be possible to find a basis for common ground. And that common ground exists. Maybe it's not fashionable to say that right now. It's hard to see it with all the nonsense in Washington, and it's hard to hear it with all the noise. But common ground exists. I have seen it. I have lived it. I know there are white people who care deeply about black people being treated unfairly. I have talked to them and loved them. And I know there are black people who care deeply about the struggles of white rural America. I'm one of them, and I have a track record to prove it. I know there are evangelicals who are deeply committed to doing something about climate change. I've seen them do the work. I know there are conservatives who think there's nothing compassionate about separating immigrant children from their mothers. I know there are Republicans who believe government should only perform a few minimal functions, but that One of those functions should be making sure nearly 3,000 Americans don't die in a hurricane and its aftermath. Common ground's out there. I see it every day. Just how people interact, how people treat each other. You see it on the ball field. You see it at work. You see it in places of worship. But to say that common ground exists doesn't mean it will inevitably win out. History shows the power of fear. And the closer that we get to Election Day, the more those invested in the politics of fear and division will do anything to hang on to their recent gains. Fortunately, I am hopeful, because out of this political darkness, I am seeing a great awakening of citizenship all across the country. I cannot tell you how encouraged I've been by watching so many people get involved for the first time. They're marching and they're organizing and they're registering people to vote, and they're running for office themselves. Look at this crop of Democratic candidates running for Congress and running for governor, running for the state legislature, running for district attorney, running for school board. It is a movement of citizens who happen to be younger and more diverse and more female. We need more women in charge. But we've got first-time candidates, we've got veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan. So if you don't like what's going on right now, and you shouldn't, do not complain. Don't hashtag. Don't get anxious. Don't retreat. Don't binge on whatever it is you're binging on. Don't lose yourself in ironic detachment. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't boo. Vote. Vote. If you are really concerned about how the criminal justice system treats African Americans, the best way to protest is to vote. Not just for senators and representatives, but for mayors and sheriffs and state legislators. Do what they just did in Philadelphia and Boston, and elect state's attorneys and district attorneys who are looking at issues in a new light, who realize that the vast majority of law enforcement do the right thing in a really hard job. And we just need to make sure all of them do. If you're tired of politicians who offer nothing but thoughts and prayers after a mass shooting, you've got to do what the Parkland kids are doing. Some of them aren't even eligible to vote yet. They're out there working to change minds and registering people. And they're not giving up until we have a Congress that sees your lives as more important than a campaign check from the NRA. You've got to vote. If you support the Me Too movement, you're outraged by stories of sexual harassment and assault, inspired by the women who shared them, you've got to do more than retweet a hashtag. You've got to vote. Part of the reason women are more vulnerable in the workplace is because not enough women are bosses in the workplace. This is why we need to strengthen and enforce laws that protect women in the workplace, not just from harassment, but from discrimination in hiring and promotion, and not getting paid the same amount for doing the same work. That requires laws. Laws get passed by legislators. You've got to vote. When you vote, you've got the power to make it easier to afford college and harder to shoot up a school. When you vote, you've got the power to make sure a family keeps its health insurance. You could save somebody's life. When you vote, you've got the power to make sure white nationalists don't feel emboldened to march with their hoods off or their hoods on in Charlottesville in the middle of the day. I believe you will help lead us in the right direction, and I will be right there with you every step of the way.
Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you have enjoyed our former President Barack Obama. I know you guys have missed him in the United States. I definitely have missed him. I can tell you things have definitely been entertaining and lively in the White House, to say the least, since he has been gone. But hey, if you know someone who is on the fence about voting, let me tell you, voting is a personal activity. And so the only thing I can tell you is this: for me, I don't have the luxury, and I say luxury in big quotes, big air quotes, I don't have the luxury of not voting. I understand that it's a responsibility as an African American woman and as a female. So I'm a minority in more than one perspective, in more than one way. And so I have to be responsible with this gift that I've been left by my ancestors. And so I find it a privilege and an honor to be able to cast my ballot every single time. Check me out at TanyaVetter.com. Have a fantastic, motivating week. If you know someone that you know miss our lovely former president, send them over to the Crazy Happy Podcast. You guys know what I say. Be light, be love, be you. See you next time.